All right, so let's talk about the word intercept. Intercept is where a graph touches an axis. So the x-intercept would be where the graph touches the x-axis. It touches at -6. Does that make sense that it's -60? Or where does the graph or the line touch the y-axis? 4. So the y-intercept is 4. So I'm going to write, this is where the line crosses y-axis. This is where the line crosses x-axis. The issue with slope-intercept form is sometimes people get those two intercepts confused. Does anyone know which one we use for slope-intercept form? Do we use the x-intercept or y-intercept? Who's 100% certain? Okay, you are. Anyone else 100% certain? About which one we use for slope-intercept form? You do? You know? Which one? Yeah, were you going to say the y? Okay. So just be careful when you're graphing that this intercept, that they're both important things, but the one that's being referred to up here is the y-intercept. Okay. So, can you do that for me? Can you do rise over run and tell me what the slope of that line is? You can even use this and that to do it. Go up and over. Or use smaller points. Two over 3, you're saying? Yeah, so I can use this, I can use any of those. If you did 4 over 6, doesn't 4 over 6 reduce to 2 over 3? That's where they're getting that from? Okay, so if I count rise over run, I see it goes up 2 over 3. The slope would be 2/3. Right, we're gonna try as much as possible. Because like Jarell, if I had said to you, 0.6 repeating, graph that. That's very hard to do on a graph. It's easier to do up 2 over 3, so that's why we're trying to stick with the fractions. But it's not wrong. All right, let's look at the formula. Really big, y equals mx plus b. This right here, m, is typically a number. What does it stand for? Anyone remember? The slope. Okay, so whatever number you see in front of the x, as long as that y is alone, is the slope. So this b over here refers to, be careful, it's the y-intercept. We're just on page 9, Shane. You haven't missed much. So if this is the slope and this is the y-intercept, can you guys look at the graph up here? What would I write for the equation for the line graphed up there? Y equals, what would I put in for my slope? 2/3 x plus, what would I put in for my y-intercept? Nice. Okay, so in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form, we need two things. You need the slope and the y-intercept. You are either given the slope, okay, or you can calculate it. How did we calculate it? Using rise over run. It might be possible too that I don't give you a picture of a graph and you can use your slope formula like we did in our opener today. If you are not given the y-intercept, because sometimes I won't give you that, you're going to use a point and the slope to find it using what? That's redundant. Don't forget, the y-intercept might be given to like this. I might not say the y-intercept is 7. I might say goes through the point 0, 7, 0, whatever is the y-intercept. So if it's written that way. Okay, let's do a couple. By a couple, I mean 3. So, start with the easiest, then we'll get more difficult. And then maybe what we'll do here is we'll do a graphing one, and then I think we're going to do some whiteboard practice. Given the slope and the y-intercept. So for instance, the slope, what was I doing for color coding? Orange, right? I don't know if that matters to you. It matters to me, because I'm weird with my highlighters. So even though I didn't tell you that this is the y-intercept, how can we tell that it is? When the x-coordinate is 0, think about that, 0, okay? The y-intercept is going to be that second coordinate. Can somebody tell me what the equation for that line would be? Jarrell wants to do it. You can, but I'm going to give somebody else the chance next time. Y equals? So 5/3 x, and we're going to write, if b is negative, we're going to write that as subtract 7. He said, or plus a negative 7. Okay.
Why is there a step?
So this x and y, Braden, I'm going to go back to what this really means, okay? This x and y represents every single point that's on that line, okay? So what would happen is if you would put an ordered pair that was on the line in this equation, on the graph of it, it would be true. Like 5/3 times the x-coordinate minus 7 equals the y. And so all of our lines are going to leave an x and y in it because it represents any xy point on the line. Is that a good enough You do, yeah, if for the equation. Like for instance, let's try this one. Here's a problem. What's the problem? I know the slope. I don't have the y-intercept. So this is what I was saying, how you can find it though, and I think you're going to understand now what the y and x mean. I know that the line is y equals negative 2/3 x plus b. Agreed? But I do not know what b is. I need to try to find it. So, remember how I was saying what do x and y represent? Any point on the graph. So if this is a point on the graph, what I can do is I can plug it in for x and y, and I can use it to figure out what b has to be. Which one is the x and which one is the y? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that point in, and for y, I'm going to put the y coordinate equals negative 2/3 times, for the x, I'm going to put this x coordinate. Okay. Now, some of you who are good with multiplying fractions can see what happens here. If not, you can check on your calculator. What is negative 2/3 times negative 3? Just do it though. What did you say? Negative 2/3 times negative 3. The 3's can cancel, so can the negatives, so that's 2 plus b. What would b have to be? Huh? What would b have to be to make that true? 2 plus what equals 8?
6.
Okay. So my line is y equals negative 2/3 x plus 6. We need to practice that. What? You think you got it down? You're going to show me in a second. All right, this is the last thing we're going to do before we practice. This is by far the easiest. What's the problem with this? There's no slope and there's no y-intercept. Well, what in the world? Okay, then ask yourself, what could I do with those to find the slope? What did we learn yesterday? How can I use 2 points to find the slope? Oh, let's do rise over run or subtract the y's. So I'm going to do that. On top, 7 minus negative 3. What goes on the bottom? Negative 1 minus 4. What's my slope? 10 divided by negative 5, which is negative 2. I'm going to do a line here. I found my slope. Yay! I have y equals negative 2x plus b. I don't know b though. In the example above, what did I do to find b? I multiplied the slope by the point. Now, here's the nice thing. You can't go wrong here. Either of these points are on the line, right? So they both should give you the same y-intercept. You can pick whatever one you want. If Riley wants to pick negative 1, 7, if Sandra wants to pick 4, negative 3, they're going to get the same answer for their y-intercept. All right, I'm going to pick, I don't know, I'll pick the first one. What's the y-coordinate? Negative 3. So I put that in here, equals negative 2 times 4 plus b. Ooh, no fractions on this. Like it. Negative 3 equals negative 8 plus b. Yikes, I'm not sure about that, so I'm going to go ahead and just double check. To solve that, I'd add 8 to both sides. What's b equal to? What's negative 3 plus 8? All right. Slope, negative 2. Y-intercept, 5. Write the line for me. Somebody new. Lucas. Y equals. Good. Nice. Leave this section of your notes open. Grab a whiteboard and a marker, please.